Hello, my name is Stuart Albertson, and I'm a partner with the law firm of Albertson and Davidson. And today I'm going to talk about California pleading templates, which generally move us to the 37-line pleading template. In California, traditionally we've used the 28-line template, but our firm has decided this year we're going to go ahead and start doing the 37-line pleading. The first thing we need to do is we need to make sure that the California rules of court are followed. And so let's go ahead and just go into the California rules of court, pull that up, go to the main page there. And the drafting rules for papers that you file with the court are in Title II Trial Court Rules, and they range from Rule 2.1 to 2.1100. I'm just going to grab the HTML link there. And as you can see here, it's the trial court rules, and you got to, unfortunately, break down in here and read a little bit. But you get to the papers section in Chapter 1, and there it'll tell you the form and the format of the papers that you have to put together, one-sided paper, type size, margins, spacing and number and lines, and so forth. The most important for this screencast will be Rule 2.108, and that's the spacing and numbering lines. So I'm going to go ahead and select that. And the most important part here is the number 1, where it says the lines on each page of a pleading must be 1 1/2 spaced, or, and that or is important, double spaced and numbered consecutively. So you can see that you've got a choice. You can have 1 1/2 space lines or double space lines. And generally the double space lines is what everyone uses in California for their pleadings. And so when you get a pleading, you're generally going to see a 28-line pleading, which is double space, which is roughly 24 point. The 1 1/2 space is going to be 18 point. And of course, a single spaced line is 12 points. All right, so we know that we can have a 37-line pleading or a 28-line pleading. Let's go back real quickly here and just look and see if there's anything else. The margins, I want to point out the margins. If you're going to use a 37-line pleading, you're going to want to go ahead and have bigger margins. Now, the minimum margins set by the California rules say that at least 1 inch from the left margin and at least a 1/2 inch from the right margin. But because you're getting so much more real estate to work with on a 37-line pleading, my suggestion is to do 1 1/2 inches on the right and the left margin, and I'll show you what that looks like in a moment. And then as far as font goes, we lawyers, we tend to use Times New Roman. That's the one that's used, that you see time and time again. Courier is not a good one to use for pleadings, and I'm not big on Arial either. But the rule here is important because it says that the typeface for California pleadings must be essentially equivalent to any of these 3 font families. And Times New Roman, I would argue, you've got a lot of equivalent fonts that you can use. I tend to use Garamond, G-A-R-A-M-O-U-N-D, Garamond font size 12. That's what I use. I enjoy that style. It looks clean to me. But go ahead and take a look at your family of fonts in your word processor, and you can figure out for yourself what you want to do. Okay, so we know the rules. Now, how do we create a 37-line pleading? And I think to do this the right way, since many of you will not want to use a 37-line pleading just because it's not traditional, there's not that many people using them, I will create a 28-line pleading that can be easily converted into a 37-line pleading down the road if you choose to do that. So let's go ahead and open up a blank Word page, and I got to pull that over here. Okay, and let me just drop that to 100% since I'm working with a smaller screen. I'll get close to 100% as I can. There we go. All right, so we've got this blank document in front of us here in Microsoft Word. That's my that's the platform I use for creating my pleadings. I know some offices still use WordPerfect. Perhaps some offices even use Pages from Apple, but most lawyers are using Microsoft Word these days. So we're sitting here with a blank document, and how do we magically make that 28-line pleading that we've struggled with so many times before, and then ultimately a 37-line pleading? Well, the first thing I want to do is I want to come here to Layout, and I want to talk about those margins. You're going to be about an inch from the top, and I'll tell you why you're not going to be quite 1 inch from the top, because we got to get our numbers in the text box to the left, the 28 lines, to line up with the text in the body of the document, which will be clear in a second. So right now, just leave that at 1. The bottom I set to 0.6, and so I'll leave that at 0.6. And then the left and the right margins, remember, California rules say the left margin has to be at least 1 inch and the right can be a half an inch. We're going to go even bigger than that. We're going to go at 1.5 on the left and 1.5 on the right. And don't worry, you're not giving up too much space here. You're going to see how nice this looks when it's done. So we go back home over here. All right, the first thing we want to do is we just want to put some text into the body of our document, and generally it's going to be an address line first. So let me start with my name first, and then you're going to put your state bar number in, and then you're going to put your firm name in. All right, and then you're going to put your address. I use STE for suite, and I'll tell you about that in a second. And then Ontario, California, 91764. Put a nice clean phone number in. I don't think you need to put a P or a phone in front of that. And then you want to put your fax number in. And then I identify that as my fax, and then an email, and I don't need to put the word email : Everyone knows what an email looks like. Again, less is more when you're drafting these pleadings from a typography standpoint. The less you can include, the cleaner your pleading is going to look, the more likely a judge is going to be, or a research attorney is going to be, to actually read it and review it. And so I'll put my email in here. Okay. I think that's enough to work with for now. So it's a nice clean address. I'm going to go ahead and drop this. Well, I'll do that later. I like to have those in small caps and the state bar number in small caps, so it just doesn't stand out so much, but we can do that later. I'll show you what the finished product looks like. I want to have a clean address in my pleadings, and so STE for suite. I don't put a phone, like I said, and I don't put email, and you can see how nice that looks. Okay, everyone's probably watching this for how do we get the numbers to the side here, the 28 lines and or the 37 lines for your pleading. Well, you're going to come up here to the margin area, and you're going to double click so you can open up the header. So that's real simple. You were over here in the text box. You just move up here to the header, double click, and you'll see that you have an opening. You want to insert a text box here to the left side of the document in the margin, in the left-hand margin. And this is simple. You come up here to insert, and insert is going to give you a bunch of choices. One of those choices down here towards the bottom is a text box. Select text box. It's going to give you a plus sign, and you can push down with your mouse, hold, and you can open up a text box. I open up one about that large, and I let go. Okay. You can see my cursor is justified left right now. I want to justify it to the right side, and the justification left is here, so we just come over to the justify align right. We click on that, and we see the cursor moves from this side over to this side. Okay, we know that we're going to have 28 lines, so we need to come here and we need to extend this down towards the bottom of the page. And I take it all the way down to the footer line. So there we go. Let's come back up here to the top. We know this is going to go up further because it has to get up to Stewart R. Albertson, but right now we're just going to put some numbers in. And it's important how we put our numbers in. We want to put our numbers in just normally, like you put a number 1. But we don't want to do a regular return there, which would just be hitting the enter key once, to move it down to the next number 2. We don't want to do that. We want to do what we call a hard line break. And the good news is this is very simple. You just hold down the shift key when you do your hard return. So you hit shift and the enter key. Hold the shift key down. I hit the enter key, and it goes down, and I've now done a hard line break. The reason we do a hard line break after each one of these numbers is so that we can treat it like a paragraph, and it's so much easier to manipulate whether we want to use a 28-line manipulation or a 37-line manipulation. So you're going to do that for each one of the numbers. So after number 2, you're going to hold down the shift bar and you're going to hit a hard return, 3, and so on. And let's just go all the way up to 28. Having a little bit of problem there. There we go. All right, so we've got hard line breaks at each place there now in all those numbers. And now when we place our cursor over those numbers and we triple click, it will select all of them. And that's really what we're going for. We want this blue, we want the ability to select all those numbers so that we can set the spacing between them properly. Now, you go ahead and do the triple click. I'm having some problems here. I'm going to get the triple click here in a second. All right, there we go. Got all the numbers selected. And now what we want to do is we want to go to format and we want to go to paragraph. And you need to become comfortable working with the paragraph function because you're going to do a lot there when you're working with pleadings in California. And you can see that I've got a keyboard shortcut out there, and that is going to be the Option, Command, and the letter M. And if I hit those all at one time, the paragraph box will automatically come up. So instead of having to come up to the format and come down to paragraph every single time, you can just use the keyboard shortcut. However you choose to do that is fine. I think Windows users will have a very similar experience here. There's a keyboard shortcut, and there's also the ability to go up into format and find your paragraph option. So I'm going to select paragraph. This is the paragraph box that you're going to use quite often. If you've used other people's pleadings in the past where they have done different spacing between their lines. Some people do 22.65, some people do 22.75. So when you've gotten those pleadings, you've had to come over here and you've had to wrestle with the before and the after to make your pleadings line up. Well, you're not going to have to do that after this. You're going to have a pretty easy job if you set the pleadings up like I'm going through right now. So we don't want single spaces between these numbers over here. We're going to want to put, according to the rules, and we can have double space or space and a half, and the double space ends up being exactly 24 points. We know 12 points is a single line, and so if we do a double line, we're going to make 24. And then all we're going to do is select OK, and watch our numbers over here to the side once we hit OK. OK, good. So what we now have is exactly 24 points between each one of these numbers, 1 through 28. Now the fun part, we got to line this up with this side of the document over here. And of course, that causes problems for our caption page because our caption page, we have single spaces sometimes, like right here with our address bar. But then when we get down to the second page, we're going to go into our double page or double spaces for our text in our pleading or in our motion, whatever we're using. So let me close out of there just for a moment, and let's go ahead and select all of this. And again, I'm going to go to that paragraph option, and I can see this is at single space. I don't want to do that. I want to do exactly 24 point, just for measurement purposes. At some point, I'm going to move the address back to its single space. But this is going to give me the ability to take this text box and line it up over here with these double-spaced text, the body of the double-spaced text here. Okay, so we go back up to header and we select this box. We wait till we get the 4 arrows there and we move this up. And this just takes a little bit of practice. You can see how close we are there. All right, I think what we're going to do is we're going to pull this down, and you can see it doesn't quite line up. You get to the point where you get pretty close, but it's not there. So we close out of that, and we come back up here to layout. And if anybody has a way of doing this better, please let me know. But I think what we're going to do is we're going to just add a little bit to the top margin. Okay, so instead of 1 inch, we're giving it 1.05 inches, and I don't think that's going to be a problem with the court that you ultimately give this to. And you can see there, then the lines are all lining up together. Come down here to the bottom, and we see the problem that we have down here is our text box isn't long enough to show all 28 lines. We like where our text box is here, so the way to do that is to go back up here into the header, come down here, select this, grab onto this, pull this down, and then we're going to close that out. And sure enough, look at that. We've got all 28 lines and everything is lined up. Okay, so this hasn't been too difficult so far. We go ahead and we got to close out of that footer. We did. Okay, what I'm going to do then is just select up to there. I'm not going to select my name yet because sometimes that messes up. I'm not sure why Word decides to do that. I go back into my paragraph box and I realize this is an address, so it needs to be single space. So I come here and I select, instead of 24 points, I'll go to 12 points and I'll select OK. And look at that. Everything works. I think we probably, let me see what happens if we select the top one too now, just to see what happens. Go back into paragraph. We want to go to exactly 12 point. It did it. It jumped up, which we don't want. And I'm not sure how to stop that. So we're going to undo that by hitting Command Z, and we're going to leave it just like that. Let me see if we just select one line. Let's see if that makes a difference. Yeah, it still jumps up. So I'm just going to leave it like that. As you can see, there's a little bit more of a space there, and that's unfortunate. So I'm not sure how to undo that. If somebody can write in at the bottom of this blog and let us know how to get rid of that, that would be great. Otherwise, we're going to have just a little bit of an extra space there so that we can get everything lined up. I guess the other thing we could try to do is to put this back into double space and move it up. But let's leave this alone for now, and we'll come back to it. Or maybe we won't come back to it. Maybe somebody else will enlighten us about how to get around that. Then you're going to go ahead and put attorneys for, right? And so we're going to be attorneys for plaintiff in this case. And then we're just going to use a table, a simple table, to enter the rest of the information here. I think the best thing to do is come down here, probably past the 8. Let's just go to the 9 and give the court some room up here to use for file stamping and so forth. And let's go to tables, and we're going to select 2 tables like this, 2 by 2. All right. And you can see everything is fitting in with our margins. The first one we want to merge together. And so we're just going to select those 2. You hold down on the mouse and come across and select both of those. And you right click and you can see that one of the options is to merge the cells. When you merge the cells, it becomes 1. We want to leave this one, this one in 2 cells. We want to go ahead and center our text in the first box. And then we want to put the Superior Court of California. I'm sorry, let's do Superior Court of the State of California and return. And then we want to do for the County of Los Angeles. All right, and then let's go ahead and select the whole table here, and let's go ahead and make everything here exactly 24 point. Just because everything needs to be double spaced now after the addressed. We hit OK. All right, that looks good. And we can do another hard return to get some space in between our caption over here. Now, I like to use as little all caps as possible. It seems like we lawyers love to use all caps for names. For instance, this plaintiff right here would be that. I'm not sure why we do that. I think it detracts from a clean pleading, and so I choose not to do that. I want things to be as clean and simple as possible, but I can't, for some reason, I can't get used to this being all lowercase. I might try it in the future, and so at times where I have a feeling that all caps needs to be used, I don't use all caps. I go ahead and I use small caps, and so if we want to go to the font, and that gives us a chance to use small caps. We select that and hit OK. And then look how nice that looks. Also, you notice I'm still using Times New Roman 12. And so now that I've got a little bit of text to work with, let's go ahead and hit Command A to select the whole document. And then let's come here, and I'm going to do Garamond. And I'm still going to do 12. And so everything from here on out will be Garamond 12. Okay, so we've got our address in there, single space. It's lined up with the number 1 over here. We see we've got the 28 lines. Looking good there. One thing we're going to need to do here at some point is put in a footer, and so we may need to drag this down just a little bit, and then let's go ahead and center that, and then we want to insert the page number, and we want it to be at the center, at least I do, and I hit OK. There's that, and then you can also put the title of the document in. So this is going to be a complaint. One other thing you can do here is you can do a line, hit return. There we go. And then we do complaint for damages and demand for jury trial. And then we come over here and we're going to just move that down so that we don't obstruct the 28 line. It looks like it's going to work. And the one way to check that is to come over here, and if we get all the way over here, we see that we get number 2 and complaint for damages. Okay. Now what we need to do is we need to put in our caption. And so for an example in this case, let's just go ahead and put in how we would traditionally do this. Let's come here and let's put harmed plaintiff and do a couple returns, and then I don't know, let's do 10, 20 spaces out, plaintiff and a comma. Come down a little bit, go in 5 spaces or so and put a V, come down, and then it's going to be, let's call it bad defendant, and then we hit another return. We're going to come out here 20 spaces and put defendant and a period. And you can put your does and anybody else you want in there. Now, you can see that you're pretty close to this line right here, up here, and so what you might want to do is just move this down a couple, and you'll see why in a minute. Then you want to come over here to this text box, part of the table. Make sure that everything here is going to be exactly 24 points. And then we got a little bit more room than we bargained for, so we'll bring that back up to right about there. And we may have too much space between plaintiff, and we'll just take some of that out, make it look nice. Actually, I'd like to bad defendant down a little bit further, and then pull defendant back up, and then another space or two to give some room there. Come over here, a hard return. Now we're lined up or close to it. Here we're going to put the case number in, and then you're going to have your case number, whatever that is, and then complaint for damages and demand for jury trial. Okay, now this obviously is going to be single spaced. The one thing I want to do is I want to see if this right here, yeah, it is the same length. We just select this, and we're going to go ahead and make this a 12 point. And then you can see it pops it back up there, so we're going to have to do one more hard return. All right. And it's cutting off some of my jury trial down here. See how the font, the J drops down? It doesn't quite get it. So instead of a 12 point, there's a little 12 point. There's a little trick you can do here. You can just make it single. And single is going to be just a slightly bigger than 12 point. And now you can see I get my full text in there. Okay. Looks good. And now the problem that we have is, what about this box? What do we do to get rid of it? And it's fairly simple. I'm going to select this box right here, and then you right click on it and you go to borders and shading, and you're going to do a custom, and we know that we want to get rid of all of them. So we want to get rid of the top line, we want to get rid of the bottom line, we want to get rid of the left line and the right line, and now let's hit OK. Look at that. Looks really nice. Okay, we want to do the same thing here. The one thing we want to do is we want to leave this line in place, and we want to leave the bottom line in place, but all the other lines can go. So let's select that, right click, borders and shading. Let's take the left line away, and I think everything else we want to stay. There we go. And then let's go ahead and select this one, and we want to take away the right line and the bottom line, if that's possible. Let's see. Borders and shading. We want to take away the right line and the bottom line. Let's see what happens. There we go. So there is a really nice looking complaint. You've got your address, you've got who you represent, you've got the name of the court, you've got plenty of space for the court to do their file stamp, you've got your case number, your complaint language, you've got 1.5 margins on each side. Oh, by the way, you don't need the 2 lines that generally come down here. The California rules of court do not require that. And again, my rule, less is more. I want to take that out because I want a very clean pleading. There's also a singular line that you sometimes will see over here. You can take that out as well. And if you want to remove those from the current pleadings you're working with, just hover over them, right click, and hit cut, and hit the cut, and it'll delete it out or delete whatever option you have there. Get rid of those 2 lines and this 1 line so that you have a nice looking pleading. All right, so there you go. Now, the whole point of this journey for me in learning how to do these pleadings was that I wanted to create a 37-line pleading rather than a 28-line pleading. And that's very simple to do now that we've set this up properly. So what I would do is normally save this as a 28-line pleading, and then that'd be my master complaint for moving forward with. But since I'm not going to save this one, I'll just go ahead and start working on it and converting it to a 37-line pleading. All right, 37-line pleading, you leave everything the same right here. That's the good news. And we just come over to the header, and we go ahead and select everything by placing our cursor over the number and triple clicking. We're going to go to the paragraph option. And remember, 24 points is what gives us the 28-line pleading. If we want to do 1.5 lines, which is the 37-line pleading, we're going to do 18 point. And so for the 24, we're going to change that to 18. And watch the numbers over here as I hit OK. And you can see they bunch up quite a bit smaller. And you can see 28, and instead of being all the way down at the bottom, is now up here. So we need to add some numbers. So we come to 28. Now remember, you got to do your hardline break, which is a shift and a return. 29, 30, 31, 32. Okay, now we have 37 lines there. And everything else remains the same here. Now, because this is set up on a double-spaced 24 point, if you want to, you can come in here. A caption page isn't as important, but you could make this 18. Okay, so there's a little bit closer there. This also, I think we just need to select those 2. And we want to go exactly. All right, so it gives us the distance we're looking for, and this all stays the same. All right, and that's how you convert it. Now you can see, unfortunately, this has moved down here. And so we're going to have to do the same thing that we did previous to that. And that's come back to the layout, and we play around with this a little bit. And it looks like if we are at exactly 1 inch, which California rules require, we're right across from there. And then we can go ahead and start our pleading. So if we're at line 27 here, you can see we can start typing. All right, let's just do some typing, and we hit return, and we do some more typing. Now this is double spaced right now, So what we need to do is we need to come in here and we need to select everything. And we need to go to, not single, but we need to go to exactly how many for 37 line? 18 point. We hit that. That should solve our problem. And you can see we're a little bit off there. I don't know if this is going to let us move this up. No, it's not. And so what you want to do for this first page only is you either want to move up a little bit or down a little bit. And so I think what we'll do is we'll move up a little bit, and then we'll move down from there. And that's where you're going to have to come into the before and after. And you just have to play around with it until it falls in line. It'll probably be a 0.8 or so. Getting closer, maybe it's 10. All right, there you go. So that lines up pretty nicely. And so when you hit return here, there. Now we've got that. Come down here, and we're ready to go. Okay, so that's how we do the 37 line pleading. How does all of this look at the end of the day? I'll just minimize that out. Let me give you an example. Okay. All right, so this right here is a complaint that I've done with another firm out of Dallas. And so you can see that the addresses line up. It gives the name, everything looks good. Email, nice and clean. I've got my counsel that I'm working with on the case, and we represent a plaintiff. You can see that I've got this small capped, so everything looks really nice and clean here. A case number for the court, complaint for damages. Here's the caption, here's the line, and then I start this at line 30 of a 37 line pleading, and you can see how clean this looks. And then we drop down, and you can see just how nice everything comes together. Again, small caps, 37 lines. That 1.5 inch margin on each side gives plenty of white space so the court doesn't feel overwhelmed by what they're getting. And just to let you know that you'll save paper by doing a 37 line pleading rather than a 28 line pleading. We also are doing our best this year to print things out on double side that we serve on other parties. And that way we limit the amount of paper we use as well. So there's a 37 line pleading example. Let me give you one more example. We just got a petition here that we put together the other day. My partner Keith and one of our associates, Byron's working on that. And we put this together. You can see again a 37 line pleading. So we got this nice 37 lines. We got a nice clean address. We got the court. We've got a little bit more complicated caption here because we have an estate that we need to identify, and then we have to identify the beneficiary versus another beneficiary. And then we have a little bit more complex prayers than just complaint for damages. Probate court requires us to list the probate code sections at stake. And then we start the pleading. We talk about standing, jurisdiction, and venue. I mean, look how clean all of this looks. All of this is Garamond 12, background facts. The one thing you'll notice here too is we take our paragraphs and we break them up into small paragraphs so that the court can easily digest them. That's a little bigger than I like normally, but you can see that the Exhibit A is in bold, so we can find that quickly when we're putting our exhibits together. Causes of action. We use the California Blue Book for doing our citations. I mean, this is done well. It's a clean pleading. I think your opposition will know that you mean business and you know what you're doing. Just from a typography standpoint, how clean everything looks. Substantively, you've got to be good there too, but that's for another screencast. And so when all this is set up, you look good with the judge, the research attorney, your opposing counsel, any partners you may work for. And it just feels good to have a nice, clean document at the end of the day. I hope this screencast has been helpful for you. If you have any questions, you can feel free to reach me. My email is stewart@aldavlaw.com. That's ALDAVLAW.com. You can also reach us at 909-466-1711. I'm always happy to help people in putting this kind of stuff together.